Welcome everybody to the Fourth Wall Wrestling Podcast. Except today, we're not covering wrestling. We're covering the world of MMA with UFC 269 on Saturday. A little something different for all our UFC fans. Brandon is not here today, but we do have our resident UFC guru. You'll see him on some of the reviews and breaking the wall in the future. Today we have Adam. Adam, how's it going?
It's going great, Will. Happy to be here. You know, uh, like you said, UFC guru. I love the UFC, and I love wrestling. Hopefully, I'm in a podcast for wrestling in the future with you and Brandon. But for now, we're talking about UFC and we're talking about last night. Let's do it.
Yeah, UFC 269 was Saturday night. Um, we saw. I'd consider it a very shocking pay per view. We saw one of the biggest upsets in UFC history. We saw um, Dustin Poirier lose the big one once again, which we'll get into in a second. Coming out of the show, give me your immediate reaction and thoughts on what we saw Saturday night.
First and foremost, it was a great pay per view, top to bottom, and very shocking results. Obviously, with the Amanda Nunes fight, one of the biggest upsets in UFC history. I thoroughly enjoyed the whole night. I love the UFC. I love when they have big pay per views like this. When they have like pay per views in Las Vegas, New York City, when they have these sellout pay per views. Um, and last night was no different. UFC continues putting on the best shows, and honestly, this is probably like a weird comparison, but I would compare this to like NXT takeovers and how NXT takeovers used to present their shows with how exciting like the opening match was, how exciting the main event was, and it's very similar to the UFC, except obviously the UFC is not predetermined. So great pay per view last night, awesome.
Yeah, that's actually a very good comparison in my opinion. For our NXT fans, you could tell with the presentation how much they put into it and how much Dana White cares about how big his shows feel. And it felt like an old NXT takeover show. So that's a very good comparison. And I tend to agree with you there. But last night, we saw our man Dustin Poirier uh, choke once again in the main event. I think the overwhelming feeling I had going inside of this match or going into this match, however you want to say it, was that if Dustin wins, we should start putting him in the best fighter in the world conversation, and I was ready to do that if he won. I feel like coming out of the win against Conor McGregor and um, all of the hype coming out of that, if he was able to beat Charles Oliveira, I was ready to put him in the best fighter in the world conversation. But now that he lost, um, Adam, are we in a position to still put him in the best fighter in the world conversation?
Um, it's a very debatable topic. Um, it's a very debatable topic because Dustin is a legend in the UFC. Obviously, he debuted in 2011. The guy's obviously a legend. He's fought so many times. He's lost fights. He's won fights. He beat Conor McGregor, who is arguably one of the greatest of all time as well. He beat Conor McGregor two times, and yeah, coming into this fight, he had a lot of momentum, and we could have called him one of the best fighters in the world. We could have put him in that conversation. But after last night, I think we don't. I think we kind of take a step back on that convo. I think that Dustin Poirier not winning the big one is very it's obviously his lightweight division is stacked. You have the best fighters in the lightweight division, but you start thinking about all of these fights, right? Dustin versus these potential fights like Dustin versus Islam. right? Islam, who's probably another Khabib. Probably a Dustin versus a rematch with Charles Oliveira. You start talking about these. How many times do we have to keep putting Dustin in the main event picture? How many times do we have to continue giving this guy the interim title? How many times does he have to continue being the number one contender just for him to go in the main event and just lose? You guys got to start talking about this. It's not, oh, do we put Dustin as one of the best fighters? No, this guy has never won the actual main world title. He's never held that. Yeah, he's held the interim title, but the interim title is obviously not the world champion. The interim title is just a prop. In my opinion, it's just a trophy. It's a participation trophy, right? And and you know, once Dustin once he wins, because I'm rooting for the guy. Obviously, I want him to win. Once he wins, once or if he wins the lightweight champion, then we can start having that conversation. But for now, he's in a tough division. He has to make a choice. Does he want to move up or does he want to continue staying in the same division?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. You made a good point. You said how many times is Dustin gonna get the interim title, get the number one contendership, just to see him lose in the big one? Um, I'm honestly ready to move away from Dustin, and it's sad to say because of how good he is, but I think we start turning our attention to the man who beat him last night in Charles Oliveira. Adam, is it time to start putting Charles Oliveira's name into the best fighter in the world conversation?
Yes, we should absolutely talk about Charles Oliveira as one of the best. After last night, a lot of people were doubting Charles Oliveira. Like, the guy literally came into the fight as the underdog. The champion came into the fight as the underdog. And I told a lot of my friends, I was just like, do not count this guy out. This guy is a wizard. He's a submission wizard. This guy's a silent assassin. He could literally, it's mixed martial arts, right? It's not boxing, right? Let's say Dustin and Charles Oliveira got into a boxing fight. I think Dustin would win because if you saw the first round, Dustin beat the shit out of him. He was striking him. He hit him with ones. He hit him like a lot of times with like a 1-2 combo. Charles went down a lot of times also, but Charles kept coming back. He kept coming back. Um, that's what a true champion is, man. That's what a true champion is made of. You fall down, you keep coming back. That's what a true champion is. I got a lot of respect for Charles Oliveira. I think you start putting him in that conversation. I think after his first defense last night, and if he continues this, he's most likely gonna face the number one contender, Justin Gaethje, in the next fight. Whenever that happens, it's gonna be incredible, and then we can start having that conversation. If or maybe when he beats Justin Gaethje.
Definitely agree there. So Adam, when I look at who I think is in the best fighter in the world conversation, really to me there is four guys I would say: Kamaru Usman, Israel Adesanya, and Francis Ngannou. And now I'm willing to add Charles Oliveira to that list of guys I think could be in the conversation. So, if I had to ask you to rank these four men and make your case for who you think is the best fighter in the world, A, how would you rank them, those four men? And B, who do you think is the best fighter in the world currently?
how would I rank them? You see, there's a lot of great talent in the UFC. The champions, obviously, you have the flyweight champion, Brandon Moreno. You have the featherweight champion. You have the lightweight champion, the welterweight champion. There's so many divisions. There's so many great guys. You obviously have Israel. Um, but I think the pound for pound king, the Canelo of the UFC. I think it's Kamaru Usman. I think you put him as the pound for pound king, the pound for pound number one. That's Kamaru Usman. He's beaten everybody. Um, it's very hard to put challengers in front of him because this guy can knock your lights out. This guy can literally knock your lights out. You know what he does to past opponents. This guy, in my opinion, the best fighter in the UFC. He's the best fighter in the UFC, and to the point where he's so confident that he can go in the UFC in boxing, and he can fight Canelo Alvarez. Because if you don't know, Canelo Alvarez is the pound for pound number one in boxing, right? And Canelo and Kamaru Usman are like both in the same division. Well, not anymore because Canelo's moving up, but they were in the same division, and Kamaru Usman called him out as well. And I think that just speaks to the confidence of how great this guy is. And Kamaru Usman, he's the number one pound for pound king in my opinion. And then um, Charles Oliveira, I think you could start putting him in that top five list as well. Charles Oliveira, I think you could start putting him there. Um, After his defense last night, he beat Dustin. Like Dustin was the number one ranking of that division, and Charles Oliveira beat him in his first defense. I think you put Charles Oliveira up there as well. But aside from that, Kamaru Usman is the pound for pound number one. There's no doubt about it. No doubt.
Agreed. I think all four of these men have a case. Um, for the best fighter in the world, but I think, in my opinion, the overwhelming favorite is Kamaru Usman, and then from there it's like three guys who can all make their case for number two. They all excel in different ways, and it's really tough to say who the true number two is. So I think it's Kamaru Usman at the top, and then the other three right next to him at two, and like I said, all three have a case, but definitely the UFC is in good hands with all four of those guys. They're amazing fighters in their own right, and really you could make a case for all four of them. But now we'll move on to probably the biggest moment of the night last night, I'd say, between Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena. Um, you know, Going into this fight, I think everybody viewed it as just another day in the office for Amanda Nunes. Um, the best woman of all time in UFC, the most dominant woman of all time, just going into another defense against a game opponent. Adam, going into the fight, how were you feeling?
I apologize, bro. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Going into the fight between Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena, what was your overall feeling and thought?
Um, yeah. Obviously, a shocking result. Um, Amanda Nunes and Julianna Pena. Nobody in their goddamn mind thought that Juliana Pena was going to beat Amanda Nunes. Obviously, Amanda Nunes came into this as a 1,000 favorite in the betting odds, and um, you know, a lot of people say that Amanda Nunes is a is she's a fluke. I don't agree with that. I think she is still one of the best fighters, if not the best women's fighter of all time. She beat Ronda Rousey, she beat Holly Holmes, and she beat Cyborg. Like, how much more do you want from this woman, right? You got to start putting more respect on her name. She is the best. She is, in my opinion, like I love to compare her to Khabib because Khabib is the greatest fighter of all time, and so is Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes was, she is the best, and obviously they're two different. Khabib never lost. Amanda Nunes obviously lost last night. I think that if they have a rematch, which they should have an immediate rematch. I think you have a different Amanda Nunes. You have a focused Amanda Nunes. I think Amanda Nunes gets her revenge. She takes back the title, and I think that this whole parade of Juliana Pena, it's going to be short lived once Amanda Nunes comes back. Congratulations to Juliana Pena, though. I don't want to like disrespect her. I don't want to take nothing away from her. She got her victory last night. It was an insane way to also end the fight with like she beat her down. She jabbed her. Kept using her jab. She beat her down to the point where she got her in a submission, and that was absolutely incredible. And she made Amanda Nunes tap out. She made Amanda Nunes tap out. Think about that. So absolutely incredible. Congratulations to Juliana Pena.
Definitely big congratulations to her. But, I want to make a comparison because the one thing I noticed going into this fight was that Juliana Pena wasn't scared. So if you go back to Ronda Rousey against Amanda Nunes, everybody had been scared of Ronda. Nobody wanted to face her. But the one woman that did not have fear in her eyes was Amanda Nunes, and she got the job done. She she had a fire in her heart, and she beat Ronda. And honestly, I saw kind of that same fire from Juliana last night. Um, she was not scared of Amanda, and she got the job done. And honestly, that comparison is probably one of the best I'll be able to make just because of how similar those situations looked. You could see the look in Juliana's eyes, and it was almost the same as the look in Amanda's eyes when she got into the octagon with Ronda. So, Adam, would you agree with this comparison?
Absolutely, it's a great comparison. Juliana Pena last night, absolutely, she really surprised me because she came into the ring and she had no fear. Like you look into a fighter's eyes, you look into the way that they're jumping, the way that they're moving. And Juliana Pena last night, she was so confident. Like she was probably coming in thinking that she was going to knock out Amanda Nunes, and she did that. Well, she didn't knock her out, but she won the fight. And I think it's a great point. I think it's a great point where you made. You said Amanda Nunes obviously had like that same posture, that same attitude towards her other fighters, her other fights with like Ronda Rousey and all those fights with Cyborg. She came into that so confident. This Amanda Nunes was kind of soft. Like in my opinion, she was kind of soft. Like she gave a lot of respect to Juliana Pena. She shook her hand. She gave a lot of respect to her. I don't know why. I don't know what was going on over there because Juliana Pena had coming into this fight didn't respect Amanda Nunes. She talked a lot of trash, and yeah, it was a very different Amanda Nunes tonight. I hope she comes back stronger. I still have a lot of hope in her. She's one of my favorites. So yeah.
Yeah, I want to see in the next fight a fire from the fire that we saw these past fights with Amanda Nunes. I think I agree. Last night she looked soft, and I don't know what was wrong, but I think we need to see the fire in Amanda Nunes rekindled once again. And honestly, I think if she's able to rekindle that fire, get that fire in her heart back next time she faces Juliana Pena, she'll be getting that title back. But I mean, Pena fought one hell of a fight last night. She gave it to Amanda with the jabs, just lit her face up, and then got her in a position to put her away with the rear naked choke. And I think the most surprising part was that Amanda tapped. So, Adam, seeing the way this all went down, you know, you already said an immediate rematch is the way to go, but do you think Amanda gets the title back if they fight again?
Yeah, I think Amanda Nunes gets the title back. I think she comes into this as a different fighter. She'll learn from her mistakes. And like you said, like I hope she has that same fire and drive. I think if they have this rematch, which I hope they do, because Dana White is not an idiot. Dana White is smart. He's not a boxing dumbass. He knows what he's doing. He's not gonna have these fighters duck each other. He knows he wants to make this rematch. So I think it's gonna happen, and I think I think we better see Amanda Nunes. We better see that old Amanda Nunes because that soft Amanda Nunes last night. That's not Amanda Nunes, all right. She doesn't dab her opponents. She doesn't give them respect like that. And yeah, I think that if they have that rematch, I think Amanda Nunes smashes her in the first round.
Wow, strong predictions there. But I'm interested to see the rematch. I feel like it'll be a very good one. But moving on, I kind of want to move to a an opinion question. Adam, obviously we know UFC has a bright future with all these young stars, but if you had to pick one or maybe two people that you think is going to represent UFC in the next 5 years, who would you say is the next big thing in Dana White's UFC?
This is a very easy question for me. Uh, the next two big stars of the UFC is Islam Makhachev, who is in the lightweight division, and you have also the second guy who I think, not I think, I know he's the next big thing, is Hamza. Um, and these two guys, all right, a lot of people hate them. A lot of people hate them. And obviously a lot of people hate Islam because of Khabib. And like with all due respect, I love Khabib. Everybody knows I love Khabib, right? But he's been talking a lot of smack, and nobody likes people that talk a lot of smack, especially if you're not competing. Just don't talk shit, on Twitter and stuff. I know he's trying to push Islam as the next big thing, which 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 I know he is. Islam Makhachev is the next big thing, and I predict that in the next 5 years or the next 3 years, I think Islam is going to become the lightweight champion of the world. I think what's going to happen, I think after this Benil fight with Islam in February, I think Islam wins that. I think they might do Islam versus Dustin. And if they do Islam versus Dustin, I think Islam wins that. And if they do Islam versus Gaethje after that, or if Islam just automatically goes to the world championship, or whoever the champion is, either it's Justin Gaethje or Charles Oliveira, that's gonna be tough. That's gonna be tough. I think Islam versus Gaethje would be amazing. I think Islam would win that. But I think if you put Islam and Oliveira together, that would be a 50-50 fight in my opinion. But two of the next big stars in the UFC is obviously, in my humble opinion, Islam Makhachev. He's coming for that lightweight champion, baby. Those Khabib dudes, they love that lightweight division, and Khabib is pushing Islam Makhachev. So yeah.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. I think if there's one guy in the UFC right now that is going to represent everything that we love about the UFC for the next 5 to 10 years, it is Islam. Um, you look at that stacked lightweight division with Oliveira and Poirier and Gaethje, and it's top to bottom, it's stacked. I feel like that's the best place for Islam to make his name because there's so many big fights that can happen, and I'd love to see a Poirier and Islam fight. I'd love to see Islam fight Gaethje or Oliveira. Guys like that. I think that's the division where he can make his name because there's so many fights people want to see. And when you look at the stars of today, how did they make their name? By fighting big opponents and by whether it be by getting the win as an underdog or dethroning some of the top stars. They make their name by being in the spotlight, being in a big fight. And I think Islam has the ability to be in those big fights in every few months and get big wins and climb and become the next big thing. The writing's on the wall. All he has to do is stay locked in and not let up, and then then the sky's the limit for him. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And like you said, you got to make a name for yourself, right? And Islam in his last fight, he won via a Kimura lock, uh, which is you don't see a lot of Kimuras in the UFC, right? You don't really see that much of a Kimura, especially that perfect. The way that he hooked Dan with that Kimura, that was insane. Like the way that he did it, it was just perfect. And I think it was in the first round. I could be mistaken. It was in the first round. This guy's obviously dangerous. Islam is dangerous. He's a big, big, big threat to the lightweight champion. He's a big threat to Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje. Maybe you could have Dustin back into that. Who knows? Who else? Obviously that Ben Neal fight in February, which I think he wins that. Yeah, the sky's the limit for this kid, man. He's obviously young. He's the next Khabib. Khabib is obviously pushing this guy, and yeah, Islam Makhachev. He's gonna be the champion in 3 years. 3 years max. Not even 3 years. Maybe 2 years. Who knows?
I could definitely see it happening. It's very possible. All right, so we saw a big main event last night between Charles Oliveira and Dustin Poirier. We kind of talked about the result already with Poirier not being able to win the big one, but I really want to dive deep into this fight because I think there's more to it than a lot of people are talking about. You know, the first round, absolutely incredible. I don't think there was a period in the first round where they stopped, just tagging each other and beating the living hell out of each other. I don't think there was a moment in that first round. If you had to break down that first round, you know, Poirier with the jabs and the 1-2s, his striking was on display. Oliveira showed his toughness. He took those shots like a champ. If you had to break down that first round in one word, what would that word be?
Insane. I think that's the best. That's the easiest word to say, but that's what it was. It was insane. Uh, you never see a first round like that. Like you rarely see a first round like that. I think that's one of the best first rounds I've ever seen in the UFC. Those guys did not stop striking. Like 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 um uh, Dustin is a crazy striker. The guy's a great boxer. He knows how to throw his 1-2s. He knows how to throw his right hands. And if you've seen the fight last night, like the accuracy of Poirier, like the way that he was hitting Charles Oliveira with the ones and the twos and the threes, like he just kept tagging Charles Oliveira, and Oliveira just kept fighting back. Like that guy did not stop. He kept fighting back, kicks, elbows. He threw a nice hook as well. He had those nice body knees, which I think one of them hurt Dustin Poirier. I think the third one, the knee to the body hurt him. But man, Charles Oliveira's assassin, man. What a great first round. I'm definitely gonna go back and watch this fight over and over again. Definitely gonna watch this fight again.
Yeah, definitely a first round to remember. But then we go into the second round, and you're kind of thinking, well, as you said earlier, there's no way these guys can go 5 rounds. That didn't really clue into me until you said it, but yeah, there was no way these guys were going 5 rounds. So in that second round, what were you thinking? Um, how did you see it playing out? And then when Charles did get that submission in and was able to get the win, what were you thinking? What was going through your mind?
Okay, so when the first round ended, I automatically thought, and I told my cousin, I said, "All right, Dustin wins. Dustin knocks out Charles Oliveira in the second round." And the reason I said this is because if you saw the pace of the first round, Charles Oliveira just went toe to toe with Dustin Poirier. You don't want to do that. If you're Charles Oliveira, you don't want to do that. You don't want to strike with Dustin Poirier. Dustin will fucking knock you out. That's a reality. You don't want to strike with him. So, and I said, if he continues this in the second round, if the second round is the same as the first round, Dustin is going to knock out Charles Oliveira. But no, you know what Charles Oliveira did? He took him down. Charles Oliveira took him down. And what did he do? The whole second round, he had him on the ground. The entire round, he had him on the ground. Just hit him with elbows, and you never know. Those elbows were really sharp. Those elbows might have hurt Dustin Poirier. I, he kept hitting him in like the temple area with those elbows. Absolutely disgusting. Like, like just watching that was painful. And you're watching that. You're watching Dustin just not even move. Like that guy was paralyzed basically. And then in the post fight interview, they asked him why he didn't move the second round, and he said the reason he didn't move is because he didn't want to get caught in a submission, which is, I mean, it's understandable. That's the reason why you don't want to get up and move, because if you turn your back to Charles Oliveira, it's lights out. So that second round, Charles Oliveira dominated.
Right, and I think you were spot on. You don't want to strike with Poirier. So what did Oliveira do? He got him in his in his world on the ground the entire round. He got him on the ground, and he was able to tap Poirier. So you know, I think if you're Oliveira, there's nobody better right now in the submission game. I think for his future opponents, the last guy you want to go on the ground with and try to work submissions with is Charles Oliveira. You're asking for trouble if you try to do that. So, you know, we see this fight, we see the win by Oliveira, and then we think ahead to the Gaethje fight. You know, Adam, I want your thoughts on the Gaethje fight and how you see that one playing out.
First and foremost, that fight is going to be absolutely incredible. Justin Gaethje is one of my favorites. That guy is absolutely insane. The way that he strikes, the way that he boxes, man, he's probably one of my favorite strikers in the game. Just the way that he just boxes, man, he's just so sharp, so clean. He's a great guy. Justin Gaethje is he's up there for me in the UFC. And then Charles Oliveira, you have two of the best fighters in the division. Justin Gaethje obviously ranked number two, I believe. He's the number one contender right now. So he's obviously in line for the next pay per view, or not the next pay per view, but the pay per view coming up to face Charles Oliveira for the lightweight champion. So this one's going to be a tough fight to predict, in my opinion. Obviously, Justin Gaethje can strike. He can go toe to toe with you. He can box. Um, Charles Oliveira is the bigger man, longer reach. When you're fighting Justin Gaethje, you kind of look small. Like Michael Chandler is a small guy. All right, Michael Chandler is a small guy. So when he faced Justin Gaethje, they were basically like almost the same height, which is kind of weird. So when Justin Gaethje is facing Charles Oliveira, that's gonna be weird because Charles Oliveira is way bigger than him. His height difference, his reach, he's obviously bigger. And um, as far as my prediction, I don't know. It's really hard to predict this fight. These guys are like two of my favorites. But I think if Charles Oliveira sticks to his game plan, sticks to his submission game plan, I think he can choke out Justin Gaethje. I think he can choke out Justin Gaethje. Um, but if Gaethje if Gaethje strikes and bangs with Charles Oliveira and Charles Oliveira lets that happen, I think Gaethje has a chance of winning. But I think Charles Oliveira retains the lightweight champion.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to predict it, I would say it's time to start putting the proper amount of respect on Charles Oliveira's name. You saw what he did to Dustin Poirier. He just got him on the ground and he didn't let up. I would predict a similar outcome with Justin Gaethje, but you said it best. There's two ways this fight can go. You can either have Gaethje and Oliveira strike with each other, and then that puts the fight in Justin's favor, or if you're Charles, you can work your game plan, work what you do best, the submissions, and you can walk out with your championship. So the two ways the fight can go. There's one that benefits Justin. There's one that benefits um Charles. So I think that fight ultimately comes down to A, what style the fight is, and B, who takes the advantage in round one. Because I think Charles feeds off of the early round. The first round, he took a beating. He probably was in there, telling himself in his corner, I can't let that happen again. He did what he did best. He got him on the ground. He choked him out. I see a similar end to Justin Gaethje's day as well when they fight. Um, you know, it's time to put the respect on Charles Oliveira's name, and I agree with you. I think he does walk out as lightweight champion. So before we go, UFC 270, January 22nd, I believe, main event: Francis Ngannou, Cyril Gane. Adam, break it down for us. How do you think it goes?
Cyril Gane, he wins the champion. I think Francis needs to be humbled. This rivalry is obviously personal. They both have history with their coaches. It's a very personal rivalry. But yeah, I think Cyril Gane, he's fucking dangerous. This guy is dangerous. I think that he's the next big heavyweight. I think he's the next big star. I think he takes that title.
I'm on the fence with this one. I think we saw his fight against, I believe it was Derek Lewis. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, Derek Lewis, and we saw how he went about that fight. That was a massacre. Um, but I don't know if he'll be able to do the same to Francis. I think Francis is one of the better pound for pound guys. And ultimately, I do actually think Francis wins that fight. Gane is a game fighter. We know he can go toe to toe with anybody in that division, but ultimately, I think Francis is on another level, and I ultimately think he does walk out as the champion. But UFC 270, if it's anything like this show, we're in for another great review. Um, Adam, thank you for joining me today. It was a blast.
Thank you, Will. I would love to do this again. Hopefully we do another UFC pay per view again. If not, we'll do a wrestle. I'll probably be back with a wrestling pay per view because I obviously love wrestling. I'm more of a wrestling fan, but I love the UFC a lot. I've been watching the UFC religiously now. And thank you, Will. It was very fun to record this with you.
Yeah, great to have you on today. The viewers will see Adam back. I hope quite frequently. But thank you guys for joining us today. This was your UFC 269 review. Make sure to go check out Breaking the Wall, already posted on the channel. Make sure to subscribe and turn the bell on for post notifications. Like and leave a comment down below. Question of the day. Who is the future of UFC? Leave that down in the comments below. We have a big week coming up on Fourth Wall Wrestling. The Raw review tomorrow, NXT review Wednesday, Dynamite review Thursday. Nothing Friday, but we'll be back with the SmackDown and Rampage review on Saturday. So thank you guys for joining us. For Adam, I'm Will, and we will see you tomorrow for the Raw review. Peace.